All right, so before I really get started, got to do a little mini confession. When I was writing this homily, I specifically wrote it for a relatively younger audience, and by random chance of the deck, I'm not going to be preaching to my target demographic ideally this weekend. So for those of you who are adults, not teenagers or 20-somethings, I ask that you pretend that you are a rebellious, disrespectful teenager. And if you're 12 years or younger, don't do that. Trust me, you don't need the practice. Instead, pretend that your parents are disrespectful teenagers. That's what we call a compromise. Anyway, just for the next 10 minutes, okay? Anyway, for today, we're going to spend a little time with Paul, second reading, because he gives us some pretty good advice today. He gives us good advice a lot of days, but today he gives us good advice that we need to hear every so often. He's making 2 points back to back. 1, be unified as a community of faith. Unity is better than division. Do not fragment into little cliques that don't work well together. That's not healthy. It's not what Christ wants. Second point, it's all about him. It's all about the cross. And in fact, Paul says that the cross is the key to unity in faith. And it's my hope today to explain how he expresses that. And this is a relevant lesson for us today because Christianity today is a myriad of different churches and there's plenty of conflict among us all. Before we get into any of that, though, I want to walk you through a little case study on how big groups fragment into little ones. For many years now, I have gone to Indianapolis on vacation in the month of August. And the biggest reason I do that is I have friends all across the world, and we all come together in August to take part in this event. While they're not all my friends, 120 people play this event at once. Half of it's a game, so it's got rules and objectives and stuff, and the other half is, it's acting, basically. And these sessions are for 6 hours, and you play 3 consecutive days. All right, so we're talking about a game that takes 18 hours in total to play. So you better like the people you're with. You're going to be spending a lot of time with them. So obviously, my friends love this. We love it. We go out of our way to make this happen every year. Well, about 4 years ago, there was some major drama among the 15 or so people that run this thing, the ones that are responsible for it. Words were said that cannot be unsaid. And when the dust settled, we split into 2 groups. About 60 people stayed with the original group, ran the original game as it has always been. And then me and most of my friends, we went with, frankly, the splinter group. It was a new game, new rules, new setting, but it was the same general idea. It was the exact same time commitment, so you couldn't go to one, then the other. You had to pick one. And it was appealing to the same kind of person, the same demographic, you might say. So, for those of you paying attention, in this case study, my friends and I are the Lutherans. Okay. Just need it on the record, what can I say? My friends and I will occasionally commiserate on what happened. We want things to go back to the way they were. We want everybody to kiss and make up. But the fact is, that's not going to happen. It's been 4 years. These groups have split. They've developed on their own. Like, okay, fine, we want the old game. We want our schismatic friends. We can't have both at the same time. And now, because it's been 4 years, 100 people come to both games. So we couldn't recombine the groups if we wanted to. 200 people don't fit in the room. So, like it or not, we're divided forever. But in spite of that, most of us very much still enjoy one another, and we wish each other well, we catch up before and after the games, and we cooperate as best as we can. And I would like to believe that Paul would approve of our general attitude toward one another. Okay, we're fragmented. Okay, we're 2 separate entities now, but there's still that element of brotherly unity somewhere in the mix, minor though it may be. All right? And this is the world we live in today. All right? Christianity is no longer one entity like Paul understood, and nothing we do will ever change that in all likelihood. But that makes it all the more important that we take Paul's advice and see the Christ in each and every one of us. It doesn't mean that we need to say that our Catholic faith is of secondary importance or any of that. We just need to unite in Christ against the evils of the world. And that brings us to the second point of Paul. It's all about the cross. If unity is in fact our goal, we need look no farther than the cross. You know, it's kind of like an arrow pointing in the right direction. I know that imagery is a bit of a stretch, but it's pointing toward God. And it's a pretty good idea that when in doubt, ask yourself, is this taking me closer to or farther from the cross? So I know that many of you have at least dropped by those mega evangelical churches, the ones with the modern upbeat music. I know it's true because you're all rebellious teenagers for the next 10 minutes. Well, going to those churches is not in of itself sinful. It's not. There is nothing that takes you away from the cross doing that. There is absolutely nothing wrong with praising God through song and dance. It can't be. It's in the Bible. That's not a problem. You can take it from me. I went to those things when I was younger, when my non-Catholic friends invited me along. In addition to that, I have celebrated the Passover with my Jewish friends. And I'll tell you, in Africa, I went to the village mosque and I would pray with the Muslims. And don't worry, when I applied to seminary, I specifically brought this up. I doubt they would ordain me a priest if it was an issue. But it's not. I actually went to the mosque again during seminary on their orders. Ecumenical conferences and all that. Anyway, the reason it's not sinful is I never did any of that at the expense of my Catholic faith. It would be different if after the prayers I declared my allegiance to Muhammad. Because no matter how good or holy he may or may not be, that would be a terrible act of disloyalty to Christ on my part. That's where the sin enters into. That's when you intentionally turn away from the cross. That's when you got problems. Okay? So once again, we are called to Christian unity. And it's all about the cross. By all means. Appreciate other ways of understanding God, respect other ways of prayer, sing and dance for Jesus to your heart's content. I only ask that you remember that there is more to faith than singing and dancing. There is more to faith than amusement and group hugs. Okay? Because to be a disciple of Christ means that we've got that cross on our backs and we're offering up our lives on that altar. A Christian life without an altar or a cross will always be incomplete. Always. There is nothing on earth that can substitute either one of those. Not even good things like music or prayer will really cut it. Because you know what? If we're not sacrificing, if we're not offering up to God our sufferings on earth, then we are missing a major part of what it means to be a disciple. And if we don't even have that, well, then Christian unity is never going to be possible. At least until that distraction is removed and we return to where we truly belong, at the foot of the cross.